3.
And we're live.
2. Oh,
This is Reflections on the Journey. I'm
Hi.
here joined by Lynette Elinda and myself. I'm Graham Wardle. And this show is all about answering your questions about Mathamagical and your journey. And this chapter is the Scoreboard. So we have a bunch of questions from you guys. Thank you so much for all your questions, submitting them on mathamagical.com. We have so many entries for people that want to win a copy. So it's in my hat again.
So we are actually going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to start with a little bit of a meditation. I'd like to get everybody in tune with their feelings. But before we do that, Graham said that I'm allowed to give away a copy of Mathamagical whenever I feel like it. So
yeah,
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Actually, I'm feeling it twice.
2. We're going to give away 2?
2. He said when I
okay,
feel
you
it
read
to
that
do
one.
it.
You read that one. I'll read this one. This is Shannon Rains. So Shannon Rains, congratulations. We'll get Sally to send you a free copy.
And I've got Kayla Perry. Hello, Kayla. Congratulations. You want a copy too.
Awesome.
Okay. That felt good. So I want to do it again later when the urge hits me and I feel like doing it. Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah, let's start with the meditation, everybody. So get comfortable.
Okay. Sit your body in a position that you can hold for a few minutes is my suggestion. Excuse me. And I'm going to get rid of my talking voice. Okay. So we want to begin any of these exercises by just getting ourselves essentially to what I call the Penthouse Perspective, which is that relaxed, calm, grounded state. Okay. It's going to take a bit of practice to get here. It's not something that happens overnight. We've had some comments about people struggling with meditation. Please understand that that is something that happens for everyone. However, meditation, I cannot say enough to endorse it. It is so valuable and so important for tuning into the scoreboard. Okay. So taking a deep breath in the nose and out the open and relaxed jaw. Okay, you want to make sure that your mouth is actually open. You're releasing energy when you're doing this. You can't see it with myopic vision, but you are actually releasing energy. So let's take another deep breath, breathing in. Exhale. Just let it go. And as you're breathing in, I'm going to encourage you to imagine white light entering on the breath, white light being divine source. It's all around us. Everything is made from divine source. So as you take a breath, or the air of prana, as we were talking about last night, as you take that breath, you're actually breathing in divine source. So breathe it in. And as you exhale, let go of the tension that you might be feeling in your body. Feel it go on the exhaling breath. And this you might want to imagine as being dark or gray or a bit of sludge, depending on the feeling that you're having. So breathing in again. Exhale and feel the body let go of the tension. Another breath. Breathing in and release. Let it all go. You begin to feel calmer and calmer with this practice. So I'm going to encourage everyone who wants to tune into their feelings to begin this practice, to calm everything down around you so that you can start to tune into the feeling body, which is our guidance system, which is also what I refer to as the scoreboard in Mathamagical. So one more breath. Exhale. Let it go. Be here now. Okay, we're ready. We're ready.
Nice.
Ready as we'll ever be. That's a simple practice. I want to encourage anybody to do that, especially if you're tuning into the feelings. Remember, as I say, the ego communicates in sledgehammer. It's loud. It's dramatic. It's designed to be that way. And spirit communicates in feather. So we need to tune ourselves into feather so that we can hear what it's saying.
Awesome. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We got people from all over the world right now.
What do we have? Let's say hi.
From Ireland, we have Margaret.
Hello, Ireland. I love Ireland. I'm half Irish.
It looks like, I'm not sure that flag. I want to say like Denmark, maybe? I don't know that flag.
I can't see it without my bifocals.
But we have France as well. Lots of different people.
Bonjour,
UK.
comment ça va?
So thank you all for joining us.
What time would it be there? 9 hours ahead of us?
Yeah.
France.
So thank you for everyone, all hours of the day that are joining us. That's great. Thank you so much. So this chapter is all about the scoreboard, Lynette.
Yep.
So one of the things that I wanted to start out with that I just learned last night when I asked you this was I didn't have a clear distinction between emotions and feelings. And you have a very clear distinction between the two. And I think it's important for everybody to understand
Very
that there
good place
is a
to start.
difference.
Yeah. Okay. So as many of you know, and some of you may not know, I'll clarify, I am what is called an adept empath. Now, essentially, we're all empathic. Everybody is empathic. It's just a question of whether it's been developed or not. So being adept means I can feel a lot. I can feel energy coming off a number of different systems, including electronics, et cetera, et cetera. So what I began to recognize was that when I was receiving information, intuition, or guidance from spirit, from divine, from God, whatever you'd like to call it, doesn't matter, okay? Because we all come from the same source and we'll return to it. I noticed that I could be receiving very difficult information. For example, I was told over a decade before my mother was to pass, leave her body, die, that she was going to die at a certain time. This was many, many years before she did. Now, as I received that intuition, it came in as a feeling and it remained calm in spite of the fact that it really could have created a lot of upset if I wasn't, tuned in. So what I'd like to clarify is that for me as an adept empath, as a feeler of many, many systems, I would call feelings that of guidance from intuition. It's coming from spirit and it'll come in calm. You will be able to remain rational. Your body will not get upset. You will not become triggered. Okay. Then what I would call emotions are what I would say feelings in chaos. So you're feeling things, but now you formed an attachment and you may have become triggered by forming that attachment. And when we do, we become chaotic. We become internally, what would you say? How would you describe it when you've become emotional?
You get attached to, you get like lost in it. It's like,
Yep. It owns you.
Yeah. You don't have a clarity. You're not grounded and centered in it. It's
Exactly.
like all over the place.
So we're in ego and we're in the trigger. Okay. This is really, really important to recognize. If you think that you're feeling your feelings while you're screaming and yelling, well, yes, in a sense, you're feeling your feelings, but you've lost control of them. And this is what I call emotion. It's emoting. It's energy in motion, as you were saying last night. You could call it energy in motion. But for me, the clear distinction is feelings can be difficult, but we remain grounded and present while we feel them. When we become emotional, it's because we've received information, something's happened, and we're not able to remain grounded and present. Okay. So that's what we want to move towards. Another thing I can't clarify enough or state enough is that the process of coming to understand, to trust the feelings and recognize when we're being emotional and we're triggered takes time. Please, please recognize it takes time. This is not something that anybody is going to achieve overnight. Be loving and patient with yourself. Remember, the fastest path to enlightenment is loving self-care. So take your time, but do continue to practice. Like I've been communicating with people on Instagram, baby steps, but do step. Don't stop. Keep at it. The key is fidelity, to be faithful, focus, and discipline consistently. And that guidance system is going to come through stronger and stronger and clearer and clearer. And you will be able to very quickly, with diligent practice, make the distinction between feelings which are coming through the intuitive body, guidance from divine source, God, creation, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter to me. And when the ego has become involved and things have become chaotic and you're emoting. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I think that's just important to explain to everybody. Because that was something that I thought they were same thing. Emotions, feelings, it's the same thing. I lumped them together. And I like that distinction because it made me realize that when I get emotional, that's very easy to get lost in it. Yes. Whereas when I tune in, I get quiet and centered. It's feelings will come up that otherwise I would have missed.
Exactly. So when we're feeling emotional, I encourage doing a little bit of the practice that I just did with you this morning, to just take that breath in, allow yourself to become more grounded. Now, this can be really tricky if you are feeling emotional and triggered. Okay. So Graham and I've been out in public a few times together, and Graham knows that if he sees me going like this, I'm really trying to control a trigger, and it's best to give me a bit of space while I bring myself back into center because something outside of me has triggered me. Okay.
Yes.
So it's helpful, and we can talk about this. I'm definitely going to be talking about this in the future. I'm starting another show called The Penthouse, and we're going to be talking about all of the questions that are definitely relevant, but we can't address now because they aren't relevant exactly to the book, which is what we're doing. So we are going to be talking about a number of these things. I think I just lost my thread there.
No, that's good. Penthouse is coming up. That's a new show that Lynette has coming out very soon. And we get a lot of questions from people. And thank you so much for submitting all your questions on
Yes.
mathamagical.com. They're great. And we want to get to them
Yeah.
all, but we also want to keep them within the context of
Of the
Mathamagical.
chapters,
Of the
exactly.
chapter.
We are keeping the questions as well.
Yeah.
People have sent me questions on Instagram I haven't addressed yet. Please forgive me. It's been a very, very busy time. I am addressing them. They will get spoken to on the next
Yeah.
show, which we intend to be starting within the next, I'd say, 2 weeks.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
He doesn't know yet. Oops. Okay.
So thank you all for submitting your questions. If you haven't, or you do have questions during this episode, you can go to mathamagical.com. At the bottom of the website, there is a form there you can fill out if you do have a question that comes up while you're listening to this episode.
Right. And if it isn't relevant to the book Mathamagical, please feel free to just type in question for Penthouse.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So let's jump into, first of all, this is the chapter called Scoreboard, and it's all about your feelings and really how you're playing the game of Mathamagical. And what I loved about this that I wanted to share with all of you as well is that this to me is like your Jedi superpower. It's like in the Star Wars franchise, tuning into the Force and feeling the Force.
Mhm,
You know, people say the Force is strong with this one.
Yeah.
And Luke Skywalker and Yoda and his whole journey of like tuning in and feeling the Force. And it's like, that's what this is very close to,
That's
is it
what
not?
this is about.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to speak to that actually, because I've had a number of people refer to the work that I do as Jedi training. It's very, very accurate. And I remember seeing Star Wars for the first time when I was a little girl in Germany, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I was able to quickly make the distinction. Why did they want Luke Skywalker? Why did the shadow, the darkness, want Luke so much? Why Luke? Why Luke? And the reason is because the Force
Was strong with him.
so
Oh, yeah,
strong
that's right.
in Luke.
Yeah.
Okay, now in the movie Star Wars, it kind of makes it an accident that it's just, the luck of birth, but it isn't. It's actually about being able to tune in. And as an adept empath, which is something that we can all develop, did I just say developed? Yeah.
Good.
There's something that we can all develop.
Develop,
And it's actually our birthright, and it is our destiny, and it is our purpose to develop this communication system. And essentially, when it does become more developed and it just continues, you have the strong force within you. Our capacity for shadow is our capacity for light. So if you're capable of being a very, very loving person, the shadow, the negative energy is going to try to get your attention so that you do not spend your energy on the light, like Luke. Okay. They wanted to bring him to the dark side. So please understand, do not underestimate as you begin to develop the scoreboard tool or the feeling system, the guidance system. As you begin to develop this, you will become more and more powerful. You will become more and more adept at reading not only your own feelings, but that of the others around you, which is something that I do every day, as well as other systems like animals. I can read animals. I can read the weather. I can read electronics. I can read somebody on the other side of the world without even ever meeting them or even looking at them. So this would be the equivalent of saying the force is very strong for those of us that develop this. I cannot encourage it enough. And I've actually said to Graham, I want to run a little longer on this show because it is such an important topic. Okay.
Yeah. And I love this topic. So I'm happy.
Yes.
And we have lots of questions. So we'll get to as many of them as we can. But I love this idea of, because when I first watched Star Wars, I was like, oh, that's crazy. That'd be awesome if that was actually something you could do.
It's not that far off. Please, it's not that far off. And this is something I'll be talking about on the Penthouse, is that the intuitive sensitivities that are innately within us all, but not yet developed in most of us, are our birthright. And there is nothing evil, bad, or wrong about these sensitivities. It is our divine creator's way of communicating with us. But we have been systematically programmed by those that don't want us to tune into this innate system, to believe that it's wrong and bad, and it's not. And they want us to believe that. They don't want us to tune into our own feelings, our own guidance system, because they want to control us externally. So one of the greatest benefits that comes from developing the internal feeling guidance system is that you're no longer externally driven. You become internally powered. Okay. Someone made a comment. There's one of the questions here. I'm digressing. Sorry. One of the comments was about being the captain of our own ship. And isn't it
Yep.
true that the divine source should be the captain of your ship? Yes, it is. Absolutely. But we are the captain of the free will vehicle. We are the captain of the physical container. And the name of the mathemagical connection is to connect to divine source, so that we are the captain of the physical ship in the physical body, the meat suit temple, as I refer to it, with that connection to divine source. So essentially, yes, the divine is the master of all. You could see the divine as the ship, the divine as the water, the sky, the sky, everything. You're just the captain on the ship. But the divine is actually in control of everything. The more we tune into the guidance system, the more the divine can actually steer your life. Many people are familiar with the expression, thy will be done, not mine. And this is what I would say. As an adept empath, I live as much as I am able in divine alignment, which is, I do not choose what is best for my ego. I choose what is best for the win-win, for alignment, which is by divine decree. And by tuning into our feelings and beginning to understand them more, I'm able to do that more and more. Please understand. Graham, I got a question for you.
Yes, and thank you, Michelle, for that question. That she was the one who asked about
Okay.
the captain one. Yes, question for me.
Would you give the keys to your house?
Would you
to a
give the
burglar?
key?
Would you give the keys to your house to a burglar?
To a burglar? No,
Would
I
you?
wouldn't.
No,
No,
I
I
wouldn't.
wouldn't give my keys to a burglar.
That's a really crap accent, isn't it? I'm going to switch them around, and then maybe I'll do something else. Ou peut-être je vais parler en français. So,
And I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
right.
Give my
Okay.
keys.
Well, the divine source does not do this either. The divine source does not give us heightened intuitive sensitivities, which enables us to read into the systems around us until we can be trusted to do so. And this is why, as anybody who's finished the book Mathamagical will know, one of the most important keys is integrity. And integrity is to be whole. And in order to be whole, you're definitely going to have to know how to use the divine guidance system, your feelings. Once you are whole, you then become able to receive more divine intuition and guidance. And this is how it works for me. And anybody who knows me, anybody who spends time with me, anybody who's lived with me will know that integrity for me is first and foremost. If I want access to that divine intuition, if I want access to that guidance, then I better be clean and tidy. No hidden agenda. I have to be after what is for the greater good of all. Okay.
Yes. And I just want to share with everybody that on this journey of feeling your feelings, this is, like you say, you always say, you don't climb a ladder from the top rung
You
first.
can't. You can't.
But in the beginning, what I
Step at a
found for
time.
myself was feeling my feelings was very scary, because
Ah.
as I began to feel them, I didn't know how to process them. I didn't know, it was overwhelming. And then I would feel them and I was like, okay, well, now I'm stuck in this for the rest of the day. So I think for a lot of people, at least I'm speaking for myself here, that was an initial barrier for me to begin to listen to my feelings, because I was like, they're
Such a
too
good one.
overwhelming.
Such a good
How do
one.
I deal with
And
this? I don't have the tools.
I remember when you were working with me consistently then around anger.
Yes.
And expressing that. Okay. So one of the first things I want to say, and this is a really good reminder, is that you can't die from feeling your feelings, but it can feel like that. Okay. One of the reasons that I had to learn how to understand my feelings in the guidance system was because I was born with these sensitivities awakened in me. So I was overwhelmed very, very quickly by what was going on around me and what was happening for other people. And I had to learn how to balance all of that out. And by doing so, it has to mean to feel the feelings, not to suppress, not to repress. Okay. I'd like to say that from my perspective, that addiction, and I don't care what addiction it is, okay, anything from drugs, alcohol, sex, rock and roll, emotions, gambling, food, shopping, anything that humans can do obsessively is essentially a distraction from feeling our feelings. So if you're in addiction, if you're suffering from an addiction, I really call it a distraction. And we do this because we don't know how to process our feelings. It's our way of trying to cope. So for me, people will call addiction in itself a disease. I do not believe that it is a disease. It is a source of dis-ease, which is to say that you're out of alignment because you're not listening to the guidance system. We will use these different ways to distract ourselves to avoid feeling what feels so intense and so big, because most of us don't know what to do with it. We're not taught. In fact, we live in a society that runs a narrative that says, don't feel your feelings, don't do anything about it, run from it, drug it, deny it, deflect it, distort it, whatever maladaptive coping mechanism that you've got in place to avoid dealing with it. So first thing is, start to remind yourself from the first rung of the ladder, and you might have to do this again and again, I cannot die from feeling my feelings. something I really want to encourage around that is when you do sit down to start to challenge some of these feelings, to allow them to rise up. I like to say, love whatever comes up. Don't judge it. To get yourself into a place where you feel safe, where you feel like you can do this. I don't recommend that you challenge these feelings, if you're in an unstable place or if you're not in a safe environment. So create safety for yourself to do this, okay?
Okay. When you say challenge your feelings, what does that mean?
Well, I would call that the next step. So allowing the feelings to rise up.
Okay.
And sometimes it might be emotions that are rising up.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And that'll mean you're chaotic, you're crying, you're emoting, your energy is in motion. This is all okay. A lot of the times what we don't recognize is that just allowing the feeling to rise up, to feel it, to cry, to shout, to scream in a healthy and safe way. Okay. Boundaries around that. To do this in of itself could be enough to release the chaotic feelings, to just allow ourselves to feel. It's very important to understand we're energy beings. Okay. And if we don't tune into the energy, if we don't tune into the message that's coming in, we can't transmute it, and it stockpiles like a garbage can. So if you know someone, if you're someone who's quick to anger or quick to tears, things like that, and it'll be like a mountain out of a molehill kind of situation, then I would say what you've got is a lot of repressed emotions. Okay. And one of the things that we can do too is that we'll either make a mountain out of a molehill and we'll go external and we'll explode, or we'll go internal and we'll implode and we'll shut down. And this addresses one of the questions about depression, antidepressants.
Oh, yes. Do you want to jump to that now?
We can. We'll come back and forth. I'm glad you've got notes.
Yeah. So
somebody's organizing. It's not me.
I tried to be, but then at the same time, you kind of roll with it. You go with the flow.
Well, this is another thing with the feelings. Don't try to give them a logical, chronological process. Do not tell yourself that your feelings have to be expressed a certain way at a certain time. This is where it gets really messy, and we've got to let go of control here and allow it to come out. And this is another reason why I encourage to make sure that you're in a safe place where you've got the time and the space to do this. When I began to really process a lot of my emotions, which was around my childhood, and the trauma and the programming we experienced there, whole other topic, whole other show, I would make sure that I did it late in the evening. And I can't tell you how many times I cried myself to sleep, and I needed to. And by the time the morning came around again, eyes were a bit puffy. I recommend cold face cloth for that, and began my day having rested. We will often feel, when we release these emotions, tired. Okay. So when we're feeling feelings, it does not generally, not for me, in my experience, cause me to be tired. It will actually cause me to feel inspired. So when I'm being emotional, though, it will drain me and cause me to feel tired. Have you experienced that?
Yes, I have. So the answer is that the first rung of the ladder of feeling your feelings and getting over that fear of like being overwhelmed with it is being in a safe space.
Yeah,
being in
so
a
that
place
you
where
can
you can
release
actually
it.
feel it.
Yes, so that you can release it while you're reminding yourself that you can't die from feeling your feelings, but it can feel like it.
Yeah.
It definitely can feel like it. And I do not in any way, shape, or form want to minimize the intensity of some of the stuff that can come up for people, especially if we've been traumatized. And I myself had a very traumatizing childhood. So I had a lot of stuff to process, For some of us that experienced things like physical abuse, I was whipped as a child. And this not only stored for me emotionally, but it also stored trauma in my body. Okay. And as we start to release the emotions, we will find that it happens in stages and layers. So be very, very patient. Again, do not put a logical time frame on this, a linear time frame. It'll come up as it needs to. And your job is to receive it without judgment, much like you'd receive a child. You're not going to judge the child. You're just going to receive them and hold them. And as your emotions are rising up, just receive them and hold them and let them express themselves. Just allow them to purge. To release.
And I think that's really important to distinguish, because when I first started learning about this, I would, I thought that if I was feeling my feelings, that I would have to get lost to them and become emotional.
Yes.
And one of the tools that I have learned that has been so helpful is to witness what's going on. So I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling this is happening.
Yep.
Okay, this is what I'm feeling.
Next step. But before you're going to be able to come to the witness, you're going to have to allow the excess to come up so that you can start to balance yourself out. It's like a garbage can that overflows.
Okay.
Imagine you've got a garbage can overflowing. You simply cannot put one more bit on there and the bin is just going to tip over. Okay. Our emotions are like that. And sometimes before we can start to make rational sense of them, we have to diffuse it enough. We have to
express them?
diffuse the trigger. We
Oh,
have to
diffuse
calm things down. And this is why I encourage the breathing practice to be as
Okay.
calm as possible. But as the emotions rise up, especially if it's trauma, and most humans have experienced some pretty deep trauma. Okay. Many of us are going through that right now with current planetary conditions. We need to allow it to come up in layers. Okay. Maybe you can dump that garbage can upside down all at once, but most of us can't.
Mm.
We need to do it a little bit at a time. So be patient with the process and allowing it to come up. Don't judge. And just learning not to judge, just learning to receive your feelings in of itself is a practice that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of my tips and tools is the fastest path to enlightenment is loving self-care. Please remember that. Please remember that, to be loving with yourself, to receive your feelings without judgment. You do not need to rationalize or justify your feelings. We talked about this in the book, okay, in order to receive them. That is one of the biggest practices that we've been taught, to judge, to rationalize, to justify. If you can't give me a good reason for feeling that, or if I can't give myself a good reason for feeling that, I'm not going to allow it to come up. I don't encourage this in any way, shape, or form. And here's one of the reasons why. Many of us were traumatized, especially physically and emotionally, before we could speak. Okay, this is called pre-verbal. We will have memories of events that we cannot articulate because when they happened, we were too young to be even able to articulate. However, the energetic trauma, the energy of that trauma stays stored in the body.
Right.
So a lot of the times as we're releasing stuff, we may not be able to express what it's actually about. Okay. And you don't need to. You don't need to, because some of it and a lot of it will be pre-verbal. You won't be able to put words to it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to. You just need to allow the feelings to rise up and allow them to move through you unresisted. That's the name of the game. I can't tell you how many times, and not only in my own experience, but with working with my clients, that when we simply allowed those feelings to rise up, unrepressed, unsuppressed, that just the allowing of them to come up, to be released was enough to facilitate healing, if not, create it and complete it all together, to just feel our feelings, to become the witness, to validate. We develop maladaptive coping mechanisms because our energy systems get backed up, because we don't have the tools, most of us,
tools, so we
to
do the best we
process
can.
as the events happen. And because we don't have that over time, especially as we get older, we suppress, we repress, we suppress, we repress. And it just builds up and builds up. And the next thing you know, this thing is overflowing. A tiny little thing happens, you lose it, and then you beat yourself up for losing it instead of recognizing, wow, there's way too much suppressed. I need to release it in order to have clarity and balance.
I also wanted to share that for myself, and probably for other men as well, that feeling my feelings was not something that I saw as strong. If you're a strong man, if you're a mature man, that's something that you can push away your feelings. That was a sign of strength, to be able to push away what you're feeling and just do the job and get it done.
And that's not just for men, but that is one of the predominant. It is definitely predominantly for men. And I really want to encourage women to be open and patient with the men. Right now, what we're going through is a great awakening for men. A lot of the women have already done this, and I am not being competitive. And if you have issue with this, please send us a question and I'll address it on the Penthouse, because I can't go into enough depth with each one of the subjects. So please understand, my mission is always integrity, win-win, and unity. Okay. And it always ends up there if I get enough time to explain what I'm trying to explain. So men, yes, have been taught, don't cry. Big boys don't cry. But women have also been taught this. Okay, so when I was a child, while I was being whipped, the person whipping me would say to me, if you cry, I'll give you something to cry for. Well, I didn't want to cry. So I had to learn to cry as an adult, because I had taught myself to shut down those feelings because I didn't want to get whipped more. So it can happen for women too. It can also happen when we implode. But I do think it's imperative and very helpful to understand that this is a predominantly male program. And as we address in the book, also, women are taught, oh, it's okay to feel your feelings. Okay, we're more connected through the innate, procreation process, but that women's feelings would be discredited. Or one of the great fallacies is that when a woman is on her moon time, her cycle, that her feelings are irrational and she can't be trusted. This is completely ridiculous. This is false. This is a false narrative that society has programmed us into believing, so that we would steer away from the feeling systems and not listen to them. Okay. So we will again go into these subjects, and please feel free to send any questions that you have that are outside of the book or that expand beyond the particular chapter to me through my website or through this one. And we are keeping track of all the questions.
Yeah.
I would like to address them all. So before we go to address the next question, which is about antidepressants, I have a feeling.
Okay. So I just wanted to close on that thought about men feeling their feelings. And what I wanted to share with everyone was that I found that at first I thought, oh yeah, feel your feelings, like that's a good thing. But what I found was that it's not just like it's nice to feel them kind of thing, or it's healthy for you, but it became a grounding. It became a empowering process that I became more connected within myself.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was worth its weight in gold for me. So it's hard to feel them, but it's worth it. And that's what I want to share.
This is the whole point.
Yeah.
This is the whole point. If you do not feel your feelings, if you are not learning to tune into them, to accurately hear them, not because they're in chaos and distress, once you start to accurately tune into them, everything changes.
Yeah.
And as Graham can attest to from having spent quite a bit of time with me, is that I will address things as soon as they come up. I will address them immediately, okay? Because I can't repress them. The more in tune with your feelings you become, the less you're going to be able to suppress them. So we also develop other tools for being able to express them diplomatically, to being able to express them in ways that are constructive, not destructive, as well as ways to receive other people's feelings, okay? So again, a very, very vast subject, and by no means are we going to be able to address everything today. And this is why I'm starting the other show, which will be with a male co-host. It's not going to be Graham, but he's not going to be far away and probably will be visiting us on the show. But I have a male co-host that is going to be doing the show with me so that we do present the show from a masculine and feminine balanced perspective. And this is one of the reasons why Graham and I are doing this together, because it is so important to have that perspective expressed from both genders, because we are given different social conditioning depending on our gender. Okay. And men, you know what? In my world, a man who's not able to feel his feelings, a man who can't cry, isn't a full man. And so, Graham, what you're saying about feeling more grounded, feeling stronger as a result of it, I cannot say enough about that. It is so powerful. In fact, when I first started working with Graham many years ago, he was a very, very different person. And I very much enjoy being around Graham now. And even though Graham is, 100 years younger than I am, because he has learned to hold that masculine space, Graham has become a very good friend for me and able to hold it from that loving, masculine, balanced perspective. Okay. So it's so important.
Yeah.
If there was one chapter of the entire book that I would say, put your focus on, it's this one. Feel your feelings. Ladies, start to express yourself calmly, rationally. Don't discredit yourself. Men, pretty much the same thing. Okay. Feelings are imperative, and understanding that society does not want us feeling our feelings clearly. Please, this is like, wow, this is such a big subject. Because if we start to feel our feelings clearly, if we start to trust the inner guide, if we start to trust divine source, then we're not going to follow their narrative. We're not going to do what they want us to do anymore. Okay. And this is where manipulation and all of that comes in, and we get confused. Does this person really have my best interest at heart, or are they manipulating me? Okay. And all of that gets clear. All of that gets really clear. Okay. I pulled, you read.
We are giving a free copy away to Sveta Martinova.
Sveta Martinova.
Congratulations. Okay. Sally will be sending you. I think I know Sveta. I think I might know this one. I might know her. Congratulations, Sveta. Even if I don't know you. Hi.
Okay. Before we go forward and do this one,
yes,
and we are going to go a little bit longer today. Okay. There's so much happening.
I know there's a lot of comments.
I just want to
the
see a little
YouTube
bit.
chat is going crazy. So thank you guys. Everybody is saying hello to each other and talking amongst themselves, which is great. So thank you guys for keeping the chat going.
Okay. Well, then we're not going to bother with you guys. Okay.
But someone says, I like the beard, Graham. Oh, thank you.
We call him Fur Face.
Yeah, she's calling me Fur Face now.
I don't quite recognize him. It's the most fur he's had on his face in quite some time.
Let's go to a question from Tammy, where we talked just briefly about pharmaceutical drugs.
Okay, do you want to read?
Yes, I will. So Tammy says, hi, Lynette. I know you are not a physician, and I am not asking for medical advice, but I'm curious to know your thoughts on the effects of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. Can we ever really know how we are doing playing the game if our feelings and emotions cannot be fully felt due to these medications?
Tammy, oh my gosh, I'm sending you a huge cyber hug. That is a fantastic question. No, I am not a physician. I do not claim to be one. I speak from personal experience, though. Okay. I don't recommend antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication because essentially these are the mainstream system's way of getting us to further suppress our feelings. Okay. When we're experiencing anxiety, essentially what it means is that our internal system does not agree with what's happening externally, and we're projecting into the future. When we're living in depression, it's unresolved stuff, and we're living in the past. When we take antidepressant medication,
Yeah.
it doesn't cause you to feel good and it doesn't make your stuff go away. Please understand this, people. Please understand this. The depression and the anxiety is trying to tell you something about your scoreboard, that you are not listening to your feelings. And antidepressants in particular, I can't speak from anti-anxiety medication, but antidepressants in particular don't make the problem go away. They mask it. And what happens is that when we've been really, really depressed and we start to take the antidepressants, it causes us to feel essentially nothing.
Yeah.
Which feels like relief. And I do not encourage this. Okay. I don't encourage pharmaceuticals in any way, shape, or form unless it is literally life-saving. Why? Because I'm so sensitive that if I even take a Tylenol, it takes my body about a week to clear it out. Okay. So we are highly, highly sophisticated, sensitive systems. And the pharmaceutical industry simply does not have enough information or research or understanding about how sophisticated and subtle our systems are to speak honestly and truly about what these medications are going to do, not to mention mixing medications. Okay. The amount of people that I know that are on several different medications, it's insane. So I'm not saying that someone might not be on medication right now and finding it to be of a benefit. Great. I cannot make personal decisions for anyone, and I'm not a physician. I am speaking, though, from the perspective of someone who understands feelings. If you take the antidepressant medication, you're not going to be able to feel your feelings. You can't access them. It doesn't mean sometimes, though, that perhaps antidepressant medication might be a temporary bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But in lieu of that, I would encourage, take some time off from your life if it is all possible and go into your feelings, reminding yourself that you can't die from feeling them. That depression is trying to tell you you have stuff that's not been resolved. It's sitting there trying to get your attention through the depression. But because we don't understand depression, okay, we don't know what to do with it. And the same for anxiety. I was in Vancouver not too long ago, and there was a bus stop sign that had an image of a woman dressed in a very, basic outfit, your basic blue suit, kind of like the banker's outfit. And the sign above her head said, "I take antipsychotic medication every day. Please don't judge me. It's more common than you think." When I saw this, my heart dropped. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what they're programming to be the mainstream narrative. Okay, so somebody who's needing to take antipsychotic medication is essentially what I would call a garbage can overflowing and on fire.
Of feelings, not of a person.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
Feelings.
Just clarify.
Okay, so the guidance system in an individual that needs to take so much medication is blocked up and backed up.
Mm-hmm.
And because mainstream society does not teach us how to work through most of this, and this includes the religions, okay? I do understand that religions can play a very important role. However, there are also aspects of these religions that are not healthy for us. They do not teach us to go internally, to trust the internal guidance system, because they want us to believe that the creative source is outside of us. It is not. Okay. And again, this could be a really hot topic for people. I'm not encouraging anybody to move away from a religious practice that they may be using if it supports you. But if you are following a religious practice, or any practice for that matter, and you're not experiencing consistent, constructive relief, then I'm going to suggest you're going in the wrong direction. And taking antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication is not actually going to address the issue. It's going to suppress the issue. Okay.
I wanted to add too that from my own experience in high school, I had some experience with antidepressants, 2 different types, and that was what I experienced: is that it shut me off. I didn't feel bad, but I couldn't feel anything good. I felt like nothing, and that's what made me suicidal. I was like, I can't feel anything. Like my life's meaningless.
Well, in the innate guidance system, the feeling system, okay, we're taught we have 5 physical senses. We don't have 5 physical senses. We have 7. The 6th sense is our feelings, and the 7th sense is our intuition. We're taught not to trust our intuition and not to trust our feelings, which then speak to the 5 physical senses. If we don't do this, if we don't learn how to understand the guidance system through the physiological system, it backs up. It creates all these problems. We become addicted. We create maladaptive coping mechanisms because you know what? Divine source never stops communicating, never stops transmitting to us. And if we're not integrating that guidance, if we're not receiving it, it backs up.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Yeah. And that was something that when I was younger, that was what was happening. The things that I was feeling, I didn't know how to be there for myself. I didn't have the tools.
Most of us don't.
And most of us don't. So we do the best, like you said,
Look at the mainstream narrative. Look at our current societal model. Look at the mental health of most people in the world around you, and you will see how far off balance mankind is. And as I've said before, this is why ones like myself were born, answering a calling to be this guidance system. I do not receive my guidance from the matrix, the mainstream society's narrative. I receive my guidance from that intuitive guidance that comes from divine source. My job is to get my ego, my personality out of the way so that I can align with divine will. Thy will be done, not mine, divine source. Okay. And what we begin to discover as we start to tune into our feelings is that whatever we really want, what is for our highest good, is exactly what the divine wants for us. I want to listen to my guidance system because it allows me to move into alignment with the incredible gifts that the divine wants for me, has always wanted for me, and will always want for me. If I don't listen to the guidance system, if I don't listen to the scoreboard, I'm not going to know how to get there. I'm not going to know how to tune into it. Okay.
We have a question from RT Jane. She says, I'm really struggling with fear of failure. I am really putting this pressure on my kids. They are beautiful and very happy kids. They are studying in a very competitive school, and I fear I'm going to break them with my expectations.
RT Jane, hello. We've communicated. Yeah. Fear of failure is a belief system. Okay. And it can overpower us. It can cause our feelings to go into chaos. It also feeds what's that word? Perfectionism. Okay.
I don't have any problem with that.
It's a dirty word. It's a dirty word. Perfectionism doesn't exist, and I encourage you to get rid of it. So what I want to speak to right now is words that create polarity. Okay. So if we have good and bad and right and wrong and success and failure, okay, perfect and imperfect, please note that these create polarization, that you have to believe one or the other. Anything that creates polarization is going to create suffering. And the name of the game, once you're polarized, okay, and Artie Jane, when you're saying that I'm afraid of failing, you're essentially polarized. And what you want to do is recognize that because you're polarized, it's an immediate sign that you're looking at it from the ego's perspective, and you will not find your way out from that perspective. You're going to need to go to what I call the Penthouse Perspective. And from that perspective, you will find your way out. And the way out is this: success and failure polarize. These are ego states. These are not actually real and true. There is no such thing as success or failure.
Which is very hard to understand.
Very hard to integrate initially, but when you get it, wow, is it ever freeing, don't you think?
Well, yeah. And so for me, it was like, well, how can you, if success and failure don't exist, then how can you like know if you've accomplished something or if you've, hit the mark,
back to the scoreboard. The scoreboard. Okay. Are you feeling good? But again, so many of us have so many shaming messages and false belief systems that say you can't feel good, you don't deserve it, or you haven't earned it, or all of these different messages. Again, this topic is so vast. They will polarize us. So success and failure don't exist. How do you know? Because they create polarity. Okay. We want to move towards what doesn't create polarity. Essentially, is what you're thinking, is what you're doing, is what you're focusing on causing you to feel better? Is it bringing relief? Okay. When we move towards alignment, or what I call the mathamagical connection, or what we would say as making the creator our source, okay, we feel better, we feel stronger, we feel clear. And you experience this yourself on your own journey.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. And if you're practicing, I can speak from my own teachings, or the teachings that belong to all of us. If you practice these teachings, you'll begin to feel relief pretty quickly. So success and failure don't exist. That is not the name of the game. That is what society would like you to believe, though, because it's going to keep you on the good, consumer credit wheel, and it's going to keep you externally driven. You'll never arrive because, something or someone, a belief system, an idea, a system of some sort is going to tell you whether you're a success or a failure or not. And this is a lie. The success, essentially, if you're going to buy into success and failure, is when you can read your guidance system, when you can tune into it, use it to support you in making change, moving towards feeling better and better. So essentially, a human that is happy, that feels good, that I would say is living in the inspired state, in spiritus, in spirit, is not going to believe in success and failure. So have I achieved quote unquote success in the physical world? Well, in many ways, by the physical standards, yes, I have. But in truth, absolutely, I have. I could leave this world in any moment, at any time. I don't believe in success and failure. I've arrived. I know who I am. I cannot fail. I can only learn and grow and expand and integrate and learn and grow and expand and integrate. It's as simple as that. Success and failure don't exist, but these can be deeply, deeply debilitating control systems that we're programmed into. Another one that we can get that goes with it is don't be a quitter. Don't quit. Okay. Well, by all means, don't quit because you're in fear or because you don't want to grow and expand and move forward. But there is a whole other story to be had here when it comes to a point where you're going, okay, you know what? This idea I had, this endeavor, this business, this relationship is no longer working. And I've done everything I can. And even though I've done everything I cannot be in that balanced, harmonious state. It's time to let it go. You're not quitting. You're letting it go. But in order to do that, you're going to have to let go of society's narrative about what success and failure are. Okay. We're allowed to change our mind. We really, really are. We need to start to give ourselves permission.
One of the things that just popped into my head when you were explaining this was success and failure. I had used, and still sometimes I fall into it, as motivating factors. I don't want to fail, so it's going to motivate me to do better. Or I want to succeed. So that's so I need that sort of belief system to make improvements on my life. But yet I don't. It's actually like a whip.
Yeah.
And much better to be in tune with my feelings and feel that growth and feel that excitement and move towards that as a motivating factor to explore life, to improve on things and experiences.
And that will constantly inspire you. You will constantly expand. You will be able to let go of the approval of people outside of you. One of my tips and tools is to be able to live free and independent of the good opinion of others. If you buy into success and failure, you will be externally driven and you will constantly be a slave to something or someone outside of you who's going to determine whether you're a good boy, a good girl, a bad boy, a good boy, or a success and a failure. We're not here to achieve material results. We are here to master energy and emotion, to make that connection between ourselves and divine source the absolute first and foremost minute, every minute of every day, to be the first and foremost mission. That creates power. That is not success and failure. And it is not something that's achieved overnight. We never arrive. This is why we decided to call Mathamagical a journey. There is no destination. By the nature of who and what we are, immortal, eternal beings, we are just going to constantly grow, constantly grow, constantly grow. You can't fail. You're just going to have to do it again and again and again and again and again
and
and
thank
again.
God
and
it's
again,
that way.
Until you finally create alignment.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is by tuning into the feelings and allowing them to guide us. Okay.
Awesome. We have a question from Lori. She says, I understand the parts about feelings in the Scoreboard chapter when it comes to considering others, but isn't it possible to be too emotional or too irrational with your own self when it comes to your feelings? She also says you can't distance yourself from yourself like you can with others. So isn't thinking your feelings as important as feeling them so you can keep yourself in control and not be controlled by your emotions and feelings?
Okay, there's a lot here, and we have addressed a little bit of it. But yes, when you're being emotional, you will be irrational. You're in the trigger. Okay, so that's where I suggest taking the time to calm yourself, to become centered, return to that balanced state before you start to challenge the issue, which I call the Penthouse Perspective. So that addresses that essentially, I hope. We do not want to think our feelings. Please hear me. Do not think your feelings. Your feelings are meant to be felt. And one of the greatest disasters is to think our feelings. And this is something I discussed in the book, where men are taught to think their feelings. And this is one of the greatest challenges. Please hear me again. Do not think your feelings. Okay. When we're in the feeling state, when we're balanced, when we're calm, when we're in that clear perspective, okay, you're not going to need to think your feelings. They will automatically be rational. They'll make sense. Okay. When you're being emotional, you will be irrational. And that is not when I encourage you to take action or make decisions. Get back to the calm place before you do that. But do not think your feelings. This is a big part of the problem. In the book, I describe working with many men. And again, back to the programming that you talked about that men got, real men don't cry, be a big boy, all that stuff, which a load of bunk. I will say to men, how do you feel? And they'll go, well, I think I feel sad. No. How do you feel? Well, I think I feel sad. How do you feel? And we don't actually realize that we're thinking our feelings. And this is detrimental to the mathemagical connection. You cannot make connection with source if you think your feelings. And we do this as a way to cope. We go up to the thought, up to the mind, which is the servant. Okay. Please understand, the servant is the egoic self. The servant is the one that's going to think. Spirit feels. Spirit's already got everything we need complete here and right now. Spirit is guided by heart. This is the master. We want to make our feelings our master. But before we can do that, we need to start to practice certain tools so that we can trust that it's feelings that are guiding us through the intuitive body, through divine source, and not the emotions which are being controlled and are in chaos from the egoic perspective. Okay. One of the ways that I like to describe it is, I'm going to give you a little, what do you call it?
Metaphor? No.
Yeah.
Metaphor?
Maybe he likes metaphors.
I love metaphors.
Okay. So we can look at it like this. We've got 3D reality, okay, which is where it's physical. We've got duality, which is good, bad, right, wrong, in, out, hot, cold, night, day, man, woman, adult, child. These are the conditions of the physical reality. The physical reality, the 3D, where the meat suit temple lives, we can experience pain. We can experience suffering. We can experience separation from divine source. That mathemagical connection can become severed. And when it is, we suffer. And we develop maladaptive coping mechanisms in an attempt to get that connection back to what I call the penthouse perspective or the connected perspective. The name of the game is to be coming from the feeling body, the intuitive guidance system, from the higher perspective and looking down on the 3D experience. And this is what I call the penthouse perspective. And coming from the penthouse perspective means we're focused, we're calm, we're rational, we're grounded. And this in itself takes time and practice.
And this is something I think that Lori is saying is, trying to, how do you cope with those feelings? How do you deal with that? And so a strategy, and myself included, I've done that before too. I think my feelings is a way to try and control them.
Yes.
And instead, what you are suggesting is don't ever think your feelings.
No.
It's never good to go there.
Work towards feeling them.
Work towards feeling them from that penthouse perspective.
Being present in the body. And this is going back to the practice that we talked about at the beginning of the show today, is to be in that still place. Yeah. But sometimes, again, if the emotions have built up, okay, you're going to have to release them first. And there's a number of ways to release, okay, particularly anger. Anger acts like an umbrella, okay? It kind of protects all these other more vulnerable feelings that can be underneath. So when somebody gets angry, essentially what you're seeing is somebody who's in pain and they don't understand. And most of us don't have the tools to process that. So the first thing we need to do is allow the excess power to sort of be burned off. And anger in particular needs a visceral release. What that means is a physical release. So you did some anger work.
Lots of it.
Okay. And I remember when Graham started doing the anger work, I gave you a suggestion.
I lose my voice when I do my anger work because I like to yell. Like
right.
I'm in battle.
Now, this wasn't something that you did before.
No, it was new.
Yeah. So I encouraged Graham to go out into a field, stoke up that anger, poke at it, okay, think about it, dwell on it, get it up, and then release it. You can scream it out. I recommend, you go out somewhere in nature, far away. You can scream it out. You can purge by writing.
Yeah.
You can punch a pillow. Please do this safely. And if there is somebody that has triggered you and caused you to become angry, do not aim it at that person. Okay. Please remember this. Another really important tool about feelings is that nobody can control your feelings. Nobody tells you how to feel. You choose how to respond, to feel, or to react, to emote based on this person's behavior and choices. Okay. So I know for myself, there's times where I've reached a point now where I can feel the trigger. I can remain the watcher, which is that I'm watching the trigger while I remain in the feeling state. Okay. This is something that we eventually develop. So you can be upset about something and remain rational through these ongoing practices. Now, one of the reasons I can do this is because I don't suppress my stuff. Okay. I address it immediately. As you know, anything comes up. Graham is the same way now. We address it as soon as we can. And if we can't address it right away, we both have the tools to essentially compartmentalize it, to put it on, hold until we can come back and address it. Okay. So sometimes it's just not appropriate. Not right now. But I do make that commitment, and I know you do too, to come back, take those feelings back off the shelf, take them off
easy.
Hold. No, it isn't. It isn't easy.
Sometimes I want to leave them there.
Oh, it's tempting. It's very, very tempting. And this is another reason why you want to be in a safe, calm place before you do this. Okay. So feeling the feelings, giving yourself the space to feel the feelings and allowing them to rise up is in itself a process.
Yeah.
Okay. And by no means are we covering the subject completely. This is it's simply not possible in such a venue or in such a short period of time. We will be doing, or I will be doing workshops and ongoing things and so many different things to try to get these questions answered. Okay. Because it is a very, very deep subject.
Yes, it is.
So do you think we answered that one?
I hope so, Lori. I hope that was helpful for you.
Bring some clarity.
And what was the other thing? Oh, you mentioned this sparked something in me about, no one can make you feel anything, even though that's exactly what it feels like sometimes when somebody says something to you. You're like, well, if they didn't say that, then I wouldn't be feeling this.
Angry. You. Ooh, careful. Okay.
Yeah.
Essentially, nobody can make you angry, upset, sad, or mad without your permission. Now, I don't want to say that there aren't occasions where people can be very unkind and cruel and selfish or cross a line. Yeah. Okay. But we still, at that point, have a choice.
Yeah.
So I have had to let go of many people in my life, including my first family, because of these kinds of things, because I recognized that these people did not care about how I felt. These people did not have the tools to hear me or receive me. So I can continue to take that personally and get upset, or I can recognize that these persons do not have the capacity. So I'm not going to hang around with people who do not have the ability to hold space for my feelings. Now, I'm able to say that because I do have the ability to hold space for their feelings. This is not a double standard. Okay. We need to recognize we have to develop it first in ourselves. And as we're developing this in ourselves, what we will find is that the relationships outside of us where this needs to be resolved, where this needs to be cleared up, will come up. So it's almost like the more you're trying to move towards calm feelings, okay, the more any of the distressful, imbalanced situations outside of you are going to come into your face because you've got to clear them out and you have to practice the tools to clear them out. We really do have to earn our peace. We really do have to earn our peace. Okay. So I'm not saying that somebody can't be cruel or unkind, but you do have a choice about how much you're going to make it mean. Yeah. And in this particular context, I encourage you to consider the source. Consider the source. And also please remember, hurt people hurt people. You have a choice to remain in the company of somebody that is hurting you, or you have the choice to leave. Okay. Don't give it a value and a meaning. Don't allow their projection of pain to stick. Release it. It doesn't mean you might not need to cry. It doesn't mean that you might not feel hurt or sad. By all means, you could feel hurt or sad, especially if it's somebody who's loving that betrays you. Like I know the person who was supposed to be protecting me and taking care of me as a child was actually the person that I needed to get away from. Yeah. And this can be difficult. Again, very challenging subject.
Those are the most challenging people to not take those things personally when they're your family members, where you think these are the people that are supposed to love me and take care of me as a child or whatever. That's very, very difficult.
Or as an adult.
Or as an adult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our relationships, our partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. And when we move away from these people, another key here is not to form a judgment. Okay. I don't need to make the person who severely abused me as a child bad or wrong anymore because I've processed the feelings. I understand that that person didn't know any better. And to this day, that person still doesn't know any better. Okay. But that's not my monkey and that's not my zoo. I'm free from it and I have absolutely nothing to do with this person anymore. But I don't need to make them bad or wrong. In fact, in my own healing work, in my own forgiveness work, and there was a comment about this too, in my own forgiveness work, I've come to a place where I appreciate the opportunity that this person gave me to overcome such deep, hurtful action. It set me free.
Yeah, man. And
So-
what a different way to look at things, right? Like when you can change the way you look at things, and then that becomes an opportunity for you to grow.
Oh yeah. In prayer, in my inner work through this forgiveness process, because again, this person who abused me can't receive me, doesn't know what they're doing. Okay. And I know that they're still stuck because I can read them from a distance. So there's no need for me to even approach them after all these years. I digress a little bit there.
Just about the benefit of changing your
Right.
perspective
So
about that scenario.
Going into the internal guidance system, I actually came to a place where I could say what you might say in prayer energetically to this person. Thank you for being such a good bully. Oh, you were a really, really good bully.
Yeah.
You were.
Taught me a lot.
And thank you, because now I know how to deal with really good bullies.
Yeah.
So I turned that sow's ear into a silk purse. And even though I don't want to have anything to do with this person, and I don't have to, okay, I do at the level of spirit, thank them for giving me the opportunity to overcome it. And it was a really, really good one. Okay. So
we have a question from Irene. She says, if I had a bad instinct when I meet someone, should I trust this instinct or try to give them a chance to get to know them better? I can tell most of the time if someone is being fake. I have a lot of good friends in my life and I trust. But if I don't click with someone from the beginning, that's it. And she says, I want nothing else to do with them. I know this sounds harsh. Any tips on how to overcome this?
First of all, it doesn't sound harsh, Irene. High five. I'm right with you. Okay. And what you call your instinct, okay, which is actually connected to the meat suit temple, and instinct is more of an animal drive, is what I would actually call intuition. Okay. And I listen to it all the time. When I was a little girl, I would call that instinct to stay away from someone bad jiggy jiggy. And it might not just be to stay away from someone. It could be a situation, a place, anything. Okay. That's intuition coming in and saying to you, caution before you proceed. Now, this can get tricky because it can be both intuition and it can also be egoic fear. So that's another topic that, we'll have to dive into at another time. But essentially for this one, that instinct, and sometimes we'll feel it in our gut. Okay. And that's typically where we'll feel it, is the sixth chakra, which is the solar plexus. Okay. And I realize I say the chakras in a different order than most people are used to. This is your intuition guiding you. And I encourage you to listen to it. And I encourage you to move away from that situation, that person, that place, or the thing to gain clarity. Now, if it's intuition and you move away, okay, the rational guidance will dissipate. That feeling of bad jiggy jiggy will dissipate. It'll go away. You're no longer in harm's way. If it is an egoic fear, it'll go with you.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so if you're on a cliff's edge, you're standing on the edge of the cliff. Imagine I'm standing on the edge of the cliff and I'm looking behind me and I can see Graham running towards me with his hands out like this. And he's like, Lynette, I'm going to push you over the edge. And I'm pretty sure he's probably wanted to a few times. Okay. I'm going to have a fear that's like, no. My instincts will rise up to try to cause me to get myself to safety. So if I move out of harm's way, away from the cliff's edge, etc., that feeling's going to go away. Crisis averted. Intuition has served its purpose. If, however, I move out of harm's way and the feeling doesn't go away, I move away from the cliff, Graham has since jumped off, so that threat's gone too, and I'm still feeling the fear, then that's going to tell me it's coming from ego. And that's what we want to challenge.
Good.
That's what we want to challenge.
I like this. So in that situation that Irene was talking about, if she gets a bad vibe or a bad feeling about somebody, she moves away from that person and she still has that bad vibe, that could be a sign that it's coming from
Absolutely. I
ego.
actually have to say, I have a relationship in my own life right now where intuitively I felt very strong about moving towards it. Very, very positive, very, very strong. Okay. Divinely inspired even. But at the egoic level, at the personality level, not so comfortable. Okay. Because I didn't want to move towards that connection, which I instinctively knew, not consciously, but instinctively knew was going to make me grow. It was going to take me outside of my comfort zone. So I didn't want that. And my ego would try to sabotage it and move away from it so that I wouldn't grow. So watch out for that. That can happen too. Okay. And one of the ways that we can do, that we can check in is pay attention to where it falls in the body.
Where you're feeling that feeling?
Where you're feeling the feeling. Remember, we have the energy centers in the body. Okay. The first one is the throat. The second one is the crown. The third one is the heart. The fourth one is the root chakra. The fifth one is the third eye. The sixth one is the solar plexus. The seventh one is the sacral chakra. These energy systems are designed to work in a particular order to guide us. Okay. When the solar plexus chakra goes off, this can be both rational and irrational fear. So watch out. You're going to want to tune into that one. The one that I really pay attention to as well is the heart. Okay. Have you ever met somebody and your heart just closes or your heart just opens? Okay. Inspiration, spirit will open the heart. Fear, ego will close the heart. However, intuition can also cause us to close the heart before we develop. So for example, for myself, if I meet someone, my heart will remain open because I've come to a place where I no longer feel vulnerable. I'm not afraid. I can handle this. I can deal with whatever comes my way. Okay. So far, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right? So my heart can remain open in the face of a challenge, which also means that you can remain present in a trigger.
Okay.
You can stay the watcher. Even though there may be a challenge around you, the heart will remain open because the connection is clear. And you really know that there's actually nothing to be afraid of from that point. So initially, if your heart closes, it's your intuition's way of saying you're not safe. Move away.
Oh, okay.
Okay. With practice, tuning into the guidance system more and more, you will be able to keep your heart open. It will be able to give you more guidance, more rational inspiration from the balanced perspective that no longer feels vulnerable.
No longer feels vulnerable.
Right. Because keeping my heart open in a challenge no longer feels like I'm outside of my comfort zone.
Oh, I see.
Right. We feel vulnerable when we're outside of our comfort zone. So if we encounter an energy that doesn't feel safe, the heart's going to shut down because we're outside of our comfort zone. Once the mathemagical connection is made, we no longer need to shut the heart down. It can remain open in the face of a challenge. And this is a very, very wonderful, freeing, inspiring, and magical, powerful place to be. I highly recommend it.
And I just want to add in here, Lynette, is that if that's done prematurely, before that's an actual, real, authentic connection, the mathemagical connection, as you call it, and I've seen so many people, and myself included, I've kind of fallen into this where I want to be living from my heart and I want to be open and receiving everyone, but I'm not discerning and I'm not able to tune in and then get my heart hurt because I'm not
practicing discernment.
So it's not. So I just wanted to say that out loud because, I've heard this before. You want to live from your heart. You want to be connected and you want to be loving.
It takes time.
But it takes time.
And it takes practice.
It takes practice. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And please understand, the mainstream society's narrative is that you can flip a switch and everything's going to be great. Instant gratification. Okay, I just want to wipe that off the board altogether. We never arrive. Okay. The name of the game is to become more and more balanced, to feel inspired and peaceful more and more. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Okay. First, you're there for 2 seconds and then you leave. You're there for 5 seconds and then you fall out of balance again. So it's like here and fall and a little woo. And then the contrast starts to get bigger and bigger. And the more time we spend in the penthouse perspective, the balanced perspective, the more uncomfortable this perspective becomes. And we practice the tools to get back up here again. A lot of us think that when we're in alignment, everything's flowing, we're inspired, inspiration, in spirit, that it's luck, that it's coincidence. No, it's not. No, it's not. Absolutely not. There's no such thing as luck and there's no such thing as coincidence. Essentially, what's happening is that you've achieved the balanced state and then either stopped practicing the tools or a challenge came up and you went back under. That's essentially all that happens. Okay. No such thing as luck, no such thing as coincidence. We develop the tools and we are maintaining that inspired balanced state longer and longer and longer and longer. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes. Lois has a great question here about love at first sight. Do you believe in love at first sight? My heart gives me the right signal, but my mind goes in a different direction, she says.
Okay, well, it depends. Are we talking about love at first sight, which is unconditional acceptance, which can definitely happen from past life connections, for sure. I know when I saw my babies born, it was love at first sight, okay, unconditional acceptance. Or is it lust at first sight? We want to be really clear about that, okay? Because when we are encountering someone perhaps that we're sexually attracted to, there's a lot of sexual chemistry, all the hormones start flowing, the the gonads get all lit up, okay? And we confuse this with love. And I have to say, I got married once, very, very young, because I confused lust with love. So I don't recommend doing that. But do I believe that you can feel love at first sight? I'm not sure that I would call it love at first sight. I think that I would call it love at remembering. Okay. So, for example, the love bond that I have with my biological mother, who has since left the physical, that bond is eternal. It's not going anywhere. And because I'm a medium, I can communicate with her regularly at will. Okay. So that's true love bond. It's not going to go anywhere. When I meet my mother again in the next lifetime and she will come back, I'm going to feel a feeling that recognizes that love bond. So you could call that love at first sight, if you will. This is also something that can happen when we start talking about soulmates and twin flames. Okay. And that's, whoa, whole other subject. But yes, definitely. There are relationships that I call divine rendezvous or divinely ordained. And these are relationships that we essentially need to reconnect with, okay, from a previous lifetime in order to complete the lessons. Okay, to complete the lessons or to grow and expand. If it is a soulmate, you're going to be working on your karmic issues. If it's a twin flame, you're going to expand and grow. Big subject.
We have a similar type of question from Margaret here. She says, do you think you have to be like-minded to have a successful relationship, whether it be long-lasting friendship or romantic/marriage?
Okay, if you're talking about like-minded from my perspective, which is that you share the same values, yes. Yes. My own experience in relationships, both romantic and friendships, is that if we don't share the same values, that's essentially where the relationship, will enter into crisis. Okay. Where your values don't line up. All right. So, Graham and I, we get along pretty well, especially if he cooks.
Certain board games, though, we can't play certain board games.
Okay, there's one board game, and if it's floating in the ocean, I don't mind. Okay, I'm not going to say it out loud, but anyway. But Graham and I share the same values, and the reason that we share the same values is because we're both coming from the heart, and this is where we unite. So when we're living in integrity and we're living from the heart, we're going to have a value system that will create unity instinctually, naturally, organically. If we're in a relationship where one of us has that value system and the other one doesn't, you're naturally going to run into polarization and chaos. So on that particular issue, yes, I do believe that you must share the same values. Now, as far as the mindset goes, this could be ideas and so on and so forth. And I think that definitely, yes, there needs to be at least a certain amount of a similar perspective and mindset. Otherwise, you won't have enough harmony. You've got to have, a certain amount of stuff in common. Yes. Yeah. But the values definitely, I think, are really, really important. I know I had a relationship where my partner valued being promiscuous and going outside of the relationship. Different values. That will never happen to me. I will never step outside of a relationship. I'm not capable of quote unquote cheating. It's just not in me. It is not in my value system, and I don't intend to change. So our value systems clashed and I left. So I hope that answers your question. Mindset refers more to attitudes, perspectives, similar. but not as important, I think, because you can, I know in my relationships, one of the reasons I will choose a particular relationship is because hopefully that person stimulates me to grow. I don't want to be in a relationship that's stagnant. If that person doesn't have the tools as I do to expand and grow, and we both have that same mindset, then I'm not interested and I won't invest my very, very precious time. Okay.
How about we give away another copy of the book?
Are you feeling it?
I felt it.
You feel it.
That's what came
feel
up
it
for
in
me.
your bones. Okay.
You pick. This is your turn.
I pick.
Not all of them.
Well, that isn't all of them. Okay.
There's a lot in there. We've got lots of entries. So thank you guys. And if you didn't get a chance,
they're from all the shows
to enter yet, go to mathamagical.com. And at the bottom of the website, you can enter in the win form, put your name, your email address, and then maybe add a little note of why you want to win. And you'll be added to the hat.
and when I do the Penthouse show, we'll probably be giving away a few then too. Because it's fun
to give away stuff.
Well, it's fun to give away stuff, but I also honestly have to say my heart and soul is in Mathamagical, and I cannot endorse it enough. I know that it was my inspiration and a project that Graham and I completed together, but I can't endorse it enough. I completely, absolutely, wholeheartedly would give it to the world for free if I didn't have bills to pay.
Pauline Steinberg. Pauline, congratulations. Sally will be sending you your free copy of Mathamagical.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
I have a question here from Patty Anderson on the YouTube chat that I wanted to ask. So Patty, forgive me if I'm going to try and paraphrase this a bit because I'm not quite sure how to ask this, but she says, if you have low self-esteem, will you override these feelings of distrust? And I'm assuming you mean if you have low self-esteem, how do you override these feelings of distrust?
Okay, well, that's going to be really hard while you have low self-esteem. So low self-esteem is essentially something we could describe as lack of awareness about who and what you really are. Low self-esteem is also a very clear indicator that you're buying into external power systems. Okay, it's very, very helpful to recognize that we are born buck naked with everything that we need. Okay. And that divine source loves and approves of, it doesn't even approve, just loves us all exactly as we are. You cannot screw this up. Low self-esteem is telling you that you don't have a grounded perspective of yourself, that you're not living in truth, and it will be virtually impossible to have healthy relationships and interactions from that point. And that's actually the perspective of most people. Most people have low self-esteem. And ironically, from the perspective of someone who's awakened, that's coming from the Penthouse perspective, or what you could call the fifth dimension perspective, which is actually somebody who's very grounded and has good self-esteem and good self-worth. I know, speaking for myself, I do have pretty good self-esteem and self-worth. For somebody who doesn't have it, my perspective can look really self-centered and egotistical. It's not. It's internally powered. But when somebody has low self-esteem, they're externally driven, and they will need the approval, the acceptance of something outside of themselves before they can feel good. Mm-hmm. But I've come to a place where I live free and independent of the good opinion of others. I don't care. So
you still have compassion for people, but you don't need their approval.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't care whether you approve of me or not.
Doesn't matter.
I will respect your perspective. And of course, I would love it if everybody can get on harmoniously. Yeah. But if somebody walks into my life and tries to control me, essentially by creating a dynamic that says, I'm going to, flattery. Okay, this is something I don't trust. Somebody starts flattering me and, kissing up and all that stuff, I can't run fast enough, because this is someone who's actually trying to create a dynamic where they own you, they control you, where they say, okay, I'm going to pat you on the back. I'm going to give you all this, and then, gotcha. And then it's like, okay, but you know what? I'm not approving of what you're doing right now, or I want you to change, or I want you to do something. So I'm going to withdraw that drug from you. And now it's going to cause you to feel weak and unsure of yourself, low self-esteem. Whereas when we start to become internally powered, that mathemagical connection, our source of approval, our source of love is divine source, God, creation, whatever you want to call it. And I happen to know, I don't believe, I know that divine source loves me no matter what. No matter what. I can't screw this up. This isn't an idea that I have. This isn't a thought. It isn't a belief. It is an intrinsic knowing that I feel and know in my bones. So I can't be externally powered, externally driven. unless I decide to give away my power. And in order to do that, I'll have to abandon myself. I'll have to forget who and what I really am.
So the key is to tune into that and remember that.
Tune into
and from that place.
And to remember that you can't screw this up.
Yeah.
You don't have to earn or deserve. It's your birthright. You're already here. Okay? Doesn't matter. If somebody's trying to control you or cause you to feel bad, I would call that bad jiggy jiggy. And I think Irene and I would tell you to move away. Keep going. Okay.
So those are the questions that we had we wanted to cover in this. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Where are we at for
scoreboard?
time?
We're at we've an hour and 20 minutes almost here.
Oh boy. Okay. That's getting to be a while. Oh boy. Time flies. Eh?
We have some more things that I wanted to share with breakthroughs and such, but just in terms of questions and things, is there any other topics that you wanted to cover?
I want to state that we certainly haven't got enough time in this venue, in this format, to address all of the subjects. Please do continue to send your messages. We're keeping track of all of the questions. The Penthouse is going to start soon, and we will be addressing them regularly. We hope to be having at least one live show a week. Some of the logistics issues have to be worked out, but that is something that I'm promising that we're going to be doing. But in the meantime, please remember that you can't climb a ladder from the top rung first, that we have been societally conditioned to ignore our feelings, to tune out, to not listen, so that we would place our power outside of ourselves. Okay? It's almost like a virus that we've all been infected with. Please understand that it'll take time to come back in, and that the process begins with allowing the feelings to rise up without judgment. No judgment. Just let them come up. Just let them be whatever they need to be. You can also practice with a feeling journal, okay? I've used the metaphor of an abused dog before in talking about feelings in the book.
Yeah.
Okay? So you kick the dog is not going to move towards you. The dog's going to move away from you because the dog's learned that you're going to kick it. Well, our feelings start to go dormant because they've become aware, the guidance systems become aware that we're not listening. So it just gets quiet. Okay, it never goes away. This connection is never severed. It can't be. Okay, but what can happen is that it can go dormant. So essentially, like the abused dog, we're saying, please trust me. Please trust me. We're saying to our feelings, please come back up. I'm listening to you now. So you may want to carry around a little feeling journal, just get yourself a little notebook. And as feelings start to rise up throughout your day, you might want to write a phrase that could be sort of like a thread that you could use later to look at and allow yourself to start to take a deeper look at what's happening. Okay. Understanding that it can take time. Please be patient with yourself. Okay. And oh gosh, please, no, you can't screw this up. You are loved no matter what. I promise.
We have one quick question here from Ashley Salt. She says, how do you communicate with someone who constantly acts on their emotions? I'm referring to a family member and you can't, and she's saying she can't distance herself necessarily.
Ooh, Nelly, that's a difficult one. I get it. And one of the things that you can start to do there is not buy into the trigger. Okay. Recognizing that this person isn't going to be somebody that you can communicate with while they're in the irrational, emotional, in motion state. So don't try. Okay. There's an old expression. Do not try to teach a pig to sing. You'll annoy the pig and waste your time. Pigs can't sing. Okay. So
I could barely understand that in the accent.
Don't try to teach a pig to sing. Pigs can't sing. You'll annoy the pig and waste your time. So this person who's in an emotional trigger can't sing. So stop having the expectation. You're going to find that that'll diffuse it to a certain degree. Try to create emotional space if you can around this person, not allowing the trigger to come in. Don't make it mean anything that you don't need it to. Don't take what they say personally. Okay. Hurt people. And remember, when we're in pain, if we don't know what to do with it, if we're repressing the feelings and the emotions, we're going to project them onto the other people in a maladaptive coping mechanism attempt to get support. Okay, so that is definitely a question that we can readdress on the Penthouse in greater depth. Some of these questions, I could honestly take a whole show.
Yeah, we're trying to get to as many of them as we can, guys. And we really appreciate you guys emailing in the questions and sending them on the chat as well.
None of them are missed.
And none of them are missed.
They're all recorded.
Sally's keeping track of them all.
Yes, yes. And Antonia is also, I have a new assistant. Her name is Antonia. So for anybody communicating with me, she may be the one who's emailing you back.
There you go.
Okay. She's keeping track of it all. And it's all confidential. Again, we will not say anything more than your first name. Okay.
So we have a few breakthroughs and feedback from people that we just wanted to share that we are really grateful for that you're sharing with us, because it's great, because sometimes you don't get to meet these people and you don't get to see their faces. So to be able to get this feedback is really great, because so many people have got such great stuff from Mathamagical.
Definitely. Okay, share. No, I'm going to make a note.
Okay, here's some piece of paper. Right on that one.
Okay.
So we have Kathy says, I wanted to let you know that I have come to a place of acceptance. It isn't that I am happy with her choice. She's referring to her sister, that she's going to live this way, but I accept that it is her choice. My choice is to keep being me and keep being her sister and offering her love. Thank you for lighting the way.
And who is this?
This is Kathy.
Kathy. Unconditional acceptance is true love. High five, girlfriend. That's awesome. That's exactly what you want to do, because essentially what somebody else is doing with their life is none of our business. And as a mother to 2 grown adult children, I have to tell you, I've really wrestled with that one, because there's lots of decisions I would like them to make differently. But you know what? I came to realize, hopefully early enough on in the game not to cause more damage, that it was very arrogant and righteous of me to think that I had a right to even have an opinion about the way that somebody else is living. But I understand that when it's somebody that you care about and they're in an abusive relationship, this can be really, really difficult. So what I learned to do was I shifted my perspective from one that said, you should get out of this. You should, don't should on yourself and don't should on anyone else. Okay. When I got out of that perspective, which is really essentially righteous and arrogant, I was able to start to hold more space for that person, because when we're judging someone, we're creating resistance and it creates polarization. You're going to stay stuck. So when we start to accept that person, practice unconditional love, congratulations, freedom is well on its way, then we can actually create space. And it stops the polarization. And what you might find is that this person, your sister in this case, might now start to become more willing to come and talk to you. Because even if we're not aware of it consciously, energetically, please understand, whether we understand these systems and are consciously tuning into them or not, they are transmitting and guiding us all the time. Okay, so unconsciously, your sister will at some point feel the release of that polarization. She'll feel the release of your judgment. Remember, no Joe jobs, no judgments, no opinions, no expectations. My opinion is nobody's business but my own. And best to keep it to myself, because it's righteous and arrogant to think otherwise. So you might start to find some space between you and your sister now, and you can start to support her. Okay. And in these kinds of situations, I really encourage I messages. I feel, I see. Okay. This tends to take some of the pressure out of it for the other person. Okay. So that's a great feedback. Thank you. Keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Valder says, and Valder's from Brazil. He says, hello, thanks for your contact. As I don't speak English, I have a little difficulty. I'm using an application that translates speech. Then I read, then I take a break and try to do the exercises. Even with these restrictions, I already see changes in the way of acting and thinking. Thank you again for your attention. Blessings.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wish I could translate Mathamagical to so many different languages. I could a couple. I do have a few languages under my belt, but not enough. So thank you so much for that feedback. And please, for others, at the moment, translation. We are having the hard copy of the book run by through another editing process. So we may have a hard copy of the book fairly soon for people. I think I'd like to be able to do that before we finish the Mathamagical show. And further translations, we are
working on it.
Yeah.
Working on it.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes in behind the scenes to make this happen. So I appreciate patience. Marie
says, I am enjoying Mathamagical so much. I seem to have gone back to the start several times. The one thing I would like to say is that it keeps bringing me back to my childhood and my upbringing. I was very lucky to have been thought of all your values, Lynette, and they have stuck with me all my life. And I have passed them on to my family. Love, honesty, and truth, and respect to others. You and Graham are brilliant, and this is great. And she's from Ireland. And so she's just saying, thank you so much to you both. And thanks again.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. That's why we're doing this. Okay.
We got from Anna. She says, as I have listened once again to Reflections on the Journey, chapter 6 of Mathamagical, I found my heart was making my face smile. This chapter has been my favorite so far. Thank you so much, Graham and Lynette. I look forward to chapter 8, which is right now. This is indeed a wonderful journey. P.S. I love metaphors too. Awesome, Anna.
Great. Thank you. Really appreciate the feedback. That's why we did this. Okay.
Kayla says, I really love what Lynette and Graham are doing with Mathamagical. God bless you both. Every time I rewatch or watch a new chapter, it always brings a smile to my face, and it is always amazing to hear both of your voices. Love you both. And hello from Montana.
I love Montana. Oh, what a beautiful, I remember I was in Butte, Montana, and there was a boutique named Lynette's Boutique, and I was so thrilled. Cool. Pretty sure it's gone by now, but Montana's a gorgeous state. Thank you so much for the feedback. We really, really do appreciate it. It's absolutely a labor of love. And before we finish the show, I would like to quote Rumi. I'm probably not quoting him completely correctly, but you'll get the gist of the message. And that is that we're all really just walking each other home. Okay. The human journey is one where we're here to develop the ability to integrate anything and everything that happens around us. And in order to do that, we have to develop an innate understanding of our guidance system so that we can hold space for the experience that each of us is having, because there really is only one of us here. Okay. So anything that we haven't integrated that creates disturbance, that creates distrust, that creates pain, suffering, separation of any kind is something that we need to integrate. And if you are in a position where somebody outside of you hasn't integrated and they're projecting their pain onto you, maybe remember what Rumi had to say, which is that we're all just really walking each other home.
Beautiful. Guys, if you'd like to be notified of future episodes of Reflections on the Journey, there's a subscribe button, and I think it's like right around down there somewhere. So if you click the it's not here, but in your video when you're watching this, I think it's right down there somewhere. And if you click the subscribe button, you can be notified. I think there's a little bell icon as well that if you click that, then you'll get a little notification.
Yes.
When new episodes are coming out. And if you've already bought a copy of Mathamagical, Sally will send out emails to remind you that a Reflections on the Journey episode is coming up so that you can be aware of that. So those are the two ways you can
This will also be true for Penthouse.
Yep.
Okay. It will be on the same YouTube channel. And I want to say thanks, Cece and Brett. This is a gift
this is
from
Brett
the Kissels.
And Cecilia Kissels.
Be kind. I wanted these for the show, so Cece sent these to us. Thanks, Cece. Be kind, guys. Be kind to yourself first so that you can hold space and be kind for someone else too. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Mathamagical.com. Enter to win for the next episode. And if you got questions for the next chapter, which is the rules of the Mathamagical game.
Number 474. There's a little bit of confusion about the numbering of the chapters. Don't talk to me. Talk to him. So the next one is the rules.
Mathamagical rules. We'll see you guys then. Cheers.